Hello guys, today I'm going to show you how you can validate this form in React using a very simple, efficient, and easy to use validation library. So the library I'm talking about is Octavalidate. So Octavalidate is a library that helps you validate your forms, both client side and server side, using validation rules, sophisticated regular expressions, and form input attributes. So this library is available on NPM. If you go to npm and search for Octavalidate React, you're going to see this library. So it's available on npm, and you can use it to validate your React forms. So I have this sample form, this very simple form with email, username, age, password, and confirm password. I'm going to validate all these fields using this library. So to use this library, we have to install it in our project. So to install this library in your project, copy the command, head over to your terminal, paste it, and then hit the enter key to install the library. But in this project, I already have this library installed, so there is no need to reinstall it. So because I have this library installed, I'm going to go ahead to import it into this page. I will import this library into this page using the import statement. So this is how I import the library into the page. So once this library has been imported into the page, you have to make sure that your form have an ID attached to it. Your input elements also have an ID attached to them. So all input elements have an ID that is attached to them, and these IDs are unique. So you need to make sure that the ID that you're attaching to all input elements are unique. So we have this one for email, we have this one for username, we have this one for age, we also have this one for password, and then the last one for confirm password. So also the form has an ID of form underscore demo. So you have to make sure that your form has an ID attached to it, and then your input elements have an ID attached to them. This is very necessary. So right now we are going to create a function that will handle form submission. We're going to create a function that will handle form submission, and then this function we are going to assign into this form. So on submit and submit. So whenever this form is being submitted, or whenever you hit on the submit button, this function will be executed. Whenever you hit on the submit button, whenever the form is being submitted, this function will be executed. So let us prevent the reload of the page. Let us add a code that prevents the page from reloading when you submit this function. When you submit this form, sorry. So we use this to prevent the page from reloading. We use this to prevent the page from reloading. So after that, we need to initialize the library. To initialize the library, create a variable. Initialize the library. Create a variable and then use the new keyword and invoke the function. Once you use the new keyword, invoke the function and then pass in the form ID as the first argument to this function. So if you look at this documentation here, you will see that to validate our forms, we need to pass in the form ID as an argument to this function. So I'm going to quickly copy this ID and then I'll pass it in as a string to this function. So we have initialized the library. So after initializing the library, we need to check if we need to validate the form, sorry. We need to validate the form and then check if validation is successful. We need to validate the form and then check if validation is successful. So to do this, we'll use a conditional statement, and then I will invoke the validate method. This validate method returns a boolean. True means that there are no validation errors on that form, and then false means that there are validation errors on the form. So what I did here is, if the validate method should ever return true, we can go ahead and process the form. Else, we cannot process the form because it has validation errors. So that's it for initializing the library and then performing a check to see if validation is successful. So back to the form. We need to add validation rules to this form inputs. Validation rules are like tests that the library performs on each of these form inputs to make sure that they really match, or they are really, or the value that they contain is what we expected them to have. So on this email input, I want a user to provide an email address. That is to say that this input is required. So to add the required rule, I will use R. R is the short form of required, and this means that this input element must contain a value before the form is being submitted. So before the form is submitted, this input element must have a value. That's it for required. So I want to do the same for username. I want the user to provide a username. I want the user to provide an age, a password, and then I want the user to re-enter its password. So if you do not provide this required rule, you can equally use the native attributes for required. If you don't want to use the required validation rule, you can equally use this native attribute for required, and it will still process as if you used the arrow validation rule. So let's test this form. Let's test this form on our page. Let's test this form. So I'm going to submit this form. You can see that it is actually telling me to fill out this field, but there is something we forgot to do. So if you want the browser to use its native validation on your form, if you don't want the browser to use its native validation on your form, you have to add the attribute no validate to the form tag. Once you add this attribute, whatever validation that we have applied to this form will only be processed by Octavalidate. So the browser has no say. The browser will not try to validate the form again using its native validation. So once I've added these attributes, I'm going to reload the page. As I've added the attributes, I'll reload the page and submit the form again. So you can see this field is required, this field is required, all these fields are required. You can see that all these fields are required. So if I want to make this email required again, I will have to copy this, then remove the native and paste in this. So once I reload the page and hit on the register button, you can see that all fields are required. So you can submit this form without providing values. You can submit this form without providing values to each of these input elements. So I'm going to head back to the form right now. So you can see that this form, this particular input needs an email address. And it means that any email address you provide here, it must be a valid email address. It must be something that is considered valid. It must be an email address that is considered valid. So if I come here and type in some characters and I move over to the next input, you see, it's telling me to provide a valid email address. So that is to say that what I typed in here is not an email address. If I come here and type in something correct, yep, you can see that it is absolutely correct. So this email address is valid, and because it is valid, we can proceed with the other input elements. So username, I'm going to provide the username, and age, I'm going to provide 300. Password, means I want to 345. Confirm password 12345 6. So if you noticed, we have not added a proper validation for age, password, and confirm password. In password, I used 12345, and then in confirm password, I used 123456, and it's wrong. So we've not added validation for password and confirm password. But let's start with age. Let's start with age. So assuming you're allowing only users between the age of 18 to 30 or 18 to 50 to sign up on your site, you need to use the range attributes. So if I want to allow a user between the age of 18 to 50, this I'll provide it on the input elements, range 18 to 50, range 18 to 50. And this means that anybody that is signing up must be either 18, 19, 20, 21 up to 50, up to 50. So anybody that is signing up or anybody that's providing an age, the age you're providing must be 18 to 50. So when I use the range attribute, I can be able to specify a range of numbers that should be met. So whenever you're using this range attribute, you have to make sure that the input element has a type of number. You have to make sure the input element has a type of number. So having done that, let's go back to the form and test it out. So I'm going to submit again. I'll provide an email address, username, and then an age. Let's provide 12. You can see you can see that it's telling me that number must be within the range of 18 to 50. Number must be within the range of 18 to 50. So if I come here and provide 19, it's correct. It's absolutely correct because 19 is within the range of 18 to 50. But if I reduce it to 17, it's wrong again. So all we have to do now is to make sure that we provide the range attribute. If you want the user to provide something, between a specified range. Use the range attribute. So if you look at this error text, it is showing that it is so native. It's showing number must be within the range of 18 to 50. But we can change this. We can change this error text. We can change it using the attributes ov range message. So here I will specify your age must be between 18 to 50. So if I should reload those page, submit the form and then provide softwares, you can see that our custom error text was displayed. So it's showing me that my age must be between 18 to 50. So now that we have added a proper validation for age, let us add another one for password and then confirm password. Remember that the last time I validated this password, I used 12345 on password, then 123456 on confirm password, and it's not correct. You've not added validation for these two fields. So when you provide 12345 and 123456, you've made a mistake. You do not remember the password that you use. So a confirm password field is very important whenever you're creating a registration form that demands a password. It makes the user to remember the password that he has chosen to use on your platform. So let us add a proper validation for these two fields. So right here, I will use the attributes. On confirm password, I will use the attributes to equal to, and then the value of this attribute is the input ID that it is checking against. So when I provide this input ID here, I'm telling this input field that whatever value that I'm providing here, I'm telling the validation library to validate whatever value that I'm providing here against this other one. So in other sense means that this value must be equal to this value. Whatever value that is here must be equal to whatever value is here. So we are ready to test it out. So go back to the page and then reload. Hit on the registration button and then let's try the password again. 123445 123456. You can see that it's actually telling me that both values do not match. Both values do not match. So a cool feature of this validation library is that you have the ability to add custom error messages. You have the ability to add custom error messages. You have the ability to add custom error messages. So if you look at this input element, you can see the error message says both values do not match. But I want the user to understand what error, what validation error that he has encountered. So I will come here and I will use these attributes. OV equal to message, and then I will say both passwords do not match. So if I should reload, if I should reload and try the passwords again, 123445, 123456. So you can see our custom error message playing out here. Both passwords do not match. Both passwords do not match. So we've ended up validating email, username, age, password, and then confirm password. So you can see that this library is very easy to use, and the the most interesting part of this library is that you get to use it server side on Node.js and PHP. So if you have a project on Node.js or PHP, you can use this library to validate your forms server side. So this is for PHP and this is for Node.js. If you want to use it, go to the documentation for PHP, then go to documentation for Node.js. This one is for native JavaScript. People that code with HTML, CSS, vanilla JavaScript, this release is for you. Then this one is for React. This one is for React. There are not much differences between the native JavaScript release and the React release. There are not much differences. They are almost the same, but use the one for React if you are building a project in React. Then use the one for native JavaScript if you are building a project in native JavaScript. So back to our form. Back to our form. We have the ability to provide a custom validation rule. So if you have a regular expression that should validate a password field, you can provide you can build a rule using that regular expression. So assuming if you look at this password input, the password I used was 12345, and this means that if I do not want to use 12345, I can equally use 000000000. So there is no regular expression, or there is no custom validation rule applying to this password input. So assuming I want the user to provide a password that must be 12345, I will build it using a regular expression. To build a custom rule, you need to invoke building a custom validation rule. To build a custom validation rule, we need to invoke the custom rule method. We need to invoke the custom rule method. So in this method, the first argument that we provide to this method is the rule title. So the rule title is password, or let's use pass. Then our regular expression is 12345, and this means that the user must provide 12345 as his password. And then our error message should be your fake password must be 12345. Please do not ever use this validation rule on your password inputs. Do not ever use it because this password is not that strong. It's not that strong, so you can't properly secure a person's account using this password. Do not ever use this validation rule on your project. I'm just showing you a demo. So inside this regular expression, you can provide something more complex, like you can provide something more complex, like a set of characters that must have a capital letter, a small letter, a number, and any special character inside this validation rule. But for the sake of this demo, I'm using 12345. So now that I've built a custom rule 12345, I'll copy the rule title and then I'll provide it inside the attributes, inside the list of validation rules. So inside here, I'll provide this custom rule. idea, I'll provide this custom rule. Even here, so if I don't think it's really necessary because we're using this to compare with this, so let me move it. So when I click on the register button and enter any password of my choice, you can see that our custom rule is playing out here. It's telling me that our fake password must be 12345. Our fake password must be 12345. So if you want something more secure, you can look online. You can look online. Just search online for a regular expression that is very strong for passwords. Then come in here and paste it. Come in here and paste it in. Come in here and paste it in. But if you don't want to spend time searching for a regular expression that is good for passwords, you can use a regular expression. You can use a validation rule, an inbuilt validation rule that helps to validate a password input. So the validation rule is PWD. This stands for password. And then this validation rule checks if the password has a number, an uppercase character, a lowercase character, a special character, and it's up to 8 characters in length. So if you use PWD, you're going to reload the page and then try to submit the form again, providing any password. So you can see that our validation rule is playing here. Now the PWD validation rule is playing. So password must contain at least one number, one uppercase, one lowercase, and at least 8 or more characters. This is the way to use a strong password, guys. Use PWD validation rule, or you build your own validation rule using this line. So right here, I'm going to provide those things quickly. And that's it. Let me re-enter it because I made a mistake. And here, let's re-enter. So you can see it's working. You can see it's working. You can see it working. You can see it working. So I've shown you how you can validate your form using Octavalidate. So Octavalidate is a very easy to use library that is available both client side. That is available to validate your forms both client side and server side. So right here, I'm going to provide this email address, provide the username, and then an age. So you can see our range is still working. Your age must be between 18 to 50. Let's provide 18. So we are good to go. When you hit on the submit button, the form should immediately start to process whatever you put inside here. Whatever you put inside here, it's immediately going to process it. So thank you guys for watching this tutorial on how to use Octavalidate to validate your form. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you use this library in any project that you're building because it's very easy to use. It's very easy to use. So thank you guys. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me. So I wanna say next time I will show you how to use the one for PHP and the one for Node.js. Thank you so much, guys. Do have a great evening.